Hey, what's up, studs? Ryan here, or MandRproductions, and welcome back to another LEGO Star Wars comparison video on the channel. I'm very excited to be bringing you this comparison today between two LEGO Star Wars sets from Star Wars Episode 1, the Gungan Subs, fellas. This is going to be a really cool comparison. I'm really excited to see the difference between two sets. Of course, the original Gungan Sub being released in 1999 was the very first year that LEGO Star Wars sets were made, so that's going to be really cool to see how they were able to improve upon that in 2012, which is 13 years into the theme. So definitely a lot of things changed between these two models being released. So it's going to be very interesting to see that. This video will use the MandRproductions comparison chart here, and that's going to go through minifigures, playability, design, value, and M&R opinion to give us a final score and a winner between the two sets. And seeing as neither of these sets are currently on retail shelves, you can only buy them on like eBay or Bricklink, this may not really be much of a purchasing guide for some people. You may just be watching this for entertainment, but if you are looking into purchasing one of these, I'll just tell you right off the bat, that's the one. A little background info on each set first. The set on the left here is the 1999 Gungan Sub, set number 7161. It included 379 pieces and the 3 minifigs that you see in front of us here. And the set, when it was released in 1999, cost $50. Adjusted for inflation, that's $80 in today's money. Pretty insane. This set also did include this little extra bit of scenery for your underwater scene on Naboo. So kind of neat, but also kind of a waste for people who don't like stuff like that, really like myself. Like, I think this is kind of dumb, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. The set on the right is set number 9499 from 2012, the Gungan Sub, obviously. The set included 465 pieces and the 4 minifigs off to the right here. And when this set was released, it retailed for $70 in the United States, and adjusted for inflation, that would be $80 in today's money. These sets' prices will vary whether you buy them new or used on eBay or Bricklink nowadays, so those prices don't really have much to go on with what you would actually be paying today, but interesting to see that basically in today's money they would both cost the same at retail, so that's kind of interesting to see. I've put our minifigures side by side to give us the best view and angle of what the minifigs look like compared to the original version versus the newer version from 2012. So obviously on the left is going to be that original version, and on the right is going to be that newer version, and you can see pretty much across the board the newer version of characters is so much better. LEGO making that change from yellow skin tones to flesh skin tones in the early 2000s definitely was the move. The Obi-Wan looks substantially better. You'll obviously see little things on the print of the torso, like his Padawan braid, that are not present on that original version. So again, it's just those little details that they've been able to increase over the years. Qui-Gon with the tired looking eyes. Again, the Jedi robes just have so much more depth to them. And of course, the beard is so much better looking on the newer character versus the older character. Same hairpiece though, of note, slightly different color variation because they changed the brown color in the early 2000s, but still same hair piece. And then Jar Jar, of course, same head mold for Jar Jar, but they've added a lot of printing to that. Actually, the head mold might be slightly different. They might have changed those eyes and flattened those out versus the new one, which has to have them printed, so it's flattened. And if you still aren't convinced that the newer version has better minifigures, take a look at this beauty. Queen Amidala, absolutely gorgeous, beautiful minifigure design here. I mean, they did such an incredible job with this particular minifigure. I love it, and it's worth about $50 on eBay. This is an expensive minifigure, worth almost the same as the original retail price of the set it was included in. Pretty insane. I love it. Again, really amazing figure, and one that really puts that 2012 version over the top as far as the minifigures go. But that's not all. Something LEGO started doing around the time that the newer Gungan Sub was released was including 2 faces on minifigures. So the 2012 characters also had the face that had the breathing apparatus that the Jedi use to go underwater on Naboo. You'll see that on Obi-Wan and again on Qui-Gon. Also of note on that Qui-Gon minifigure, you can see the difference in lightsaber color. Really liking that newer, deeper green that they have in the 2012 version versus the original 1999 version. However, I will say those chrome lightsaber hilts are great on those 1999 characters, so that's definitely a plus if you're into those. And then finally, the backside of the Jar Jar heads, you can see they were able to include quite a great level of printing detail on that. And that is all the minifigures. Obviously, the winner here is going to be the 2012 model, and it's going to get a point. So in terms of playability, which set is going to offer you more options? The 1999 set does have that nice bit of scenery for the underwater area of Naboo, and you have that stingray there, which you could pick up and play with, or a kid could potentially, and you could also just use it as like a nice decor to have your Gungan Sub kind of flying or moving around in the water. And that is an interesting thought, but not something that I think is going to be a huge game changer as far as the playability of these two sets go. Both sets are going to be able to fit minifigures in the cockpits of the Gungan Sub, so you can actually lift these up rather easily. And in the 2012 set, you can actually fit all 3 minifigures in the same cockpit area, so you can fit Jar Jar, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan all in one, which is really nice. It doesn't really add or detract from playability, in my opinion, to have all 3 in there. It's just a nice aspect of the design, which we'll talk about later on. Unfortunately, though, in the older 1999 version, you have to keep the cape on because it doesn't tell you to take the cape off, but you could take the cape off, I guess, if you wanted to, but it's just going to get in the way. But you can actually fit the minifigures in these older versions just as easily. So not too hard to get all 3 figures in that 1999 version. It's just going to be a little bit easier, and you do take the capes off of them on this version because it does tell you to do that in the instructions. That's just how it goes, because otherwise there would not be enough room and it would bend those capes like crazy. There is kind of enough room in this 1999 version to have the capes remain on the minifigures and not have to worry about that, but the capes can actually fit right on in this little back pod. Then there's some clips for lightsabers on either side, but that's not too important here for what we're talking about. So playability wise, what's going on? The 1999 version does not offer any type of missile or projectile. The 2012 version, however, does have flick fire missiles on the underside. They are not the best working things I have ever used, but they are there and present, and it's better than nothing. So with the 1999 version, you can actually do some very fascinating things with this set. So you can actually pull this open, and you can pull out this little thing here, and this is basically going to be some engines for your Gungan Sub. You actually have another bit here where you can, if I can get it out, it is again tough. It's a little bit of a tight fit there, so that's definitely going to detract for this 1999 set that you have to work so hard to get it out. But you have some very interesting things going on here, and there should be somewhere on the set, if I can remember where, yep, right up underneath these little flaps here. I'll show you these, some little propellers for this, and these are just going to attach right onto this like this. So you can actually use either of these for what I'm about to do. It's just up to your personal preference. And again, it does take a little work to set up, as you can tell, but now we have it ready. So we're going to go ahead and close everything back up, and we are going to pull the ship apart. So you're going to pull on the front here, and we are just going to pull it away from the back, and you create this basically extra submarine here. And you, again, can throw this on the back here, or you can throw this one on. I kind of like the propeller one more. I just think that little orange flare adds a little bit more to it than perhaps these little jet engines. But yeah, so now you have this extra little submarine, kind of an interesting look, and definitely an interesting thing if you have a couple of kids that are going to want to be using these and want to split them up and have them fight each other. You have the one small one and then the one slightly larger one. So definitely gets interesting there as far as playability goes. This, when not being used on here, doesn't really have a place to go other than back where it was originally being stored. As far as other facets of playability on the 1999 version, you're not really going to be getting too much else. The only other thing that really has any bit of motion to it is this on the back, and at that, it's not very well attached. I've tried tightening it multiple times, but it just keeps loosening back up no matter what. So it's an interesting design, but something that really lacks a lot of refinement as far as play features go. It's just a lot of rudimentary things. So moving on to that 2012 version for playability here, we're going to see what this one has to offer. Obviously, I've already shown off the flick fire missiles on this set. It also does have a little escape pod on the back here, and what's interesting about this compared to the other one is that it's a lot easier to use, which is really nice. That other one can be a little bit clunky. This one you can just pull off and you are good to go. It's nothing that's overly complicated. Again, just very easy to use. You can pull this open. There's actually a little spot for a minifigure in there, or maybe you could cram 2 in there if you're lucky, and then you can go ahead and send it on its way. Very sleek looking pod as well, I might add. I know design isn't that important for this. You'll also notice this little bit on the back spins. I will add that I think it's better than the other one as far as just the strength of the connection goes. It's not going anywhere. It just feels better to go ahead and spin in a circle. Other playability features include this little bomb in this little hatch here. So this is kind of just in there for you to do whatever you want with. whatever you want to put it, you can use it, blow things up, I guess. And then there's also some nice little crates here, which are going to have little blue cylindrical Lego pieces, so you can kind of use those for whatever you want to use. But it's nice to have some sort of cargo hold on the ship, although I will say, kind of a small detractor, that if you flip the ship over during play, they're coming out, right? So that could be a problem for some people, but for me, not really a big deal. The set doesn't really offer any other playability facets. It's a very difficult ship to kind of include that type of thing into, I think. It's just because it's so flat. There's not a lot of room to work with. It's not like a Arc 170 or like an X-Wing or something where you can kind of get a few things in there. These things have to be relatively compact. So I think with what they're given, they definitely do a good job, and I think I'm going to have to give the point just oh so slightly to the 1999 version. I just think the playability on this set is a little bit too convoluted. If it's difficult for me to figure out, it will probably be difficult for other people to figure out, especially for kids who this would have been marketed towards back in the day. So 2012 going to get the slight nod. As for the design category, I don't feel like I should have to say much. I think it's pretty obvious that the 2012 version is a lot sleeker looking than the 1999 version. Maybe you find this version appealing yourself. Maybe it's just the nostalgic look of being so blocky, but undoubtedly, for anybody that has a modern taste in Lego sets, you're going to want to go for this 2012 model, myself included in that little category there. The windshield cockpit pieces that they use are just so much sleeker looking. I'm not really sure how I feel about the lack of printing on them, though. I know they had some very interesting prints on these ones, but maybe that just made it a little bit too messy, especially with all the blockiness on this original set. It didn't really help, probably, but definitely interesting to see the difference between the two there. And I also really love this back middle section a lot compared to this. This one just pops up a lot and just a little bit too much for me personally, for my personal taste there. Also the front end here, a lot cleaner on this version compared to the blockiness of that version. I think that's a pretty obvious difference there. But I think where this set really makes itself different is on the edges here. You can see they use these very large curved bricks here. And when you compare it with what they had going on in 1999, it was a really stark difference there. Just the edge of it is just disgusting on this one. So you'll also notice the bottom of the ship has no inverted tiles holding the plates together. So that's kind of interesting. Also, note that green bit there. We'll take a look at this 2012 version. The bottom does have some inverted tiles, and there go the crates. The bottom does have the inverted tiles, which do a nice job of holding everything together, but also just make it a very nice and pleasant experience to set the set down. And then you also have those little green bits on the edge there. Just a much cleaner look to this set in general. So I think the winner of my design category is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, the 2012 version. It's just leaps and bounds better. They did an amazing job. So let's talk value. Are you getting your money's worth buying either of these sets? Or more should I say, were you? Because these sets are both discontinued at the time now. So it is kind of an interesting thing to look back on, seeing that both of these sets in 2020 money are roughly about $80 retail. And when you compare their retail prices to what it would cost in 2020 with inflation, you're looking at pretty much the same. So to me, this set is giving a little bit of added value by having this extra bit of scenery. But I think the 2012 model with the Queen Amadala minifigure, as well as just the general upgrades that the 2012 model provides, is going to obviously be the choice for being a better value, and would be the one that I would think that if you had side by side on store shelves and consumers were making a choice, would be the very obvious choice for which one is a better value. So while Lego seems like it's overpriced today, and many people might have thought this set was overpriced, the original version, in my opinion, was even more so. So very interesting to see that, but definitely going to go the 2012 version on value. And this has become a runaway freight train if you haven't been paying attention, with the 1999 version taking a 4-0 lead heading into M&R opinion. And I think we can all see where this is heading. That's a beautiful check mark. So how do these sets stack up in my opinion? Well, let me tell you. Very funny, right? My opinion, okay, the 2012 version is better. I don't even want to talk about it. It's just so obvious to me. This thing is amazing. I'm very glad to have had the opportunity to be able to build this now, because I really think if you want to get a Gungan Sub, and I'm not really expecting Lego to remake one, although now that I've said it, they probably will. You know, that's just kind of, god dang it, I did it again. If you're a big Episode 1 fan and you have an itch for a Gungan Sub, maybe. If you're a huge LEGO Star Wars fan on the whole and you just want the original experience, you would go for the 1999 version. But I think most people would really jump for that 2012 version, especially given Queen Amidala's minifigure presence in the set. Although I will say it makes the set cost significantly more on eBay and Bricklink than maybe the 1999 version, but I think it is well worth the money. So in my opinion, I'm going to give the 2012 version the nod, and that is going to complete the 5-round sweep for the 2012 set. I think it's pretty obvious that it's just better in every way. In 1999, LEGO just wasn't the same. I mean, they were just doing some different things, and obviously they grew so much so quickly in 13 years, and they have so many new parts and so many new techniques and minifigures and design and everything. And it really created a perfect storm for a situation where you have two sets that are obviously based off the same thing, but almost look nothing alike, and of course the minifigures as well, obviously off the same characters, but still, I mean, those are very different, and they've done such a great job improving their product over the years, and it's something I look forward to and always enjoy seeing when they change stuff like that, to see that product improvement year over year. It might not seem so big going one year to the next, but when you look at a jump like this, 13 years, it can be very substantial, and this is a great example showing how much LEGO has improved since they started the LEGO Star Wars line in 1999. Now it's time for your input. You can vote on the poll on the top right of the screen right now to vote for which set you think is better. And of course, you'll be able to see how other people voted, and it'll give you an idea as to how the community feels about these two sets. And I think I know which way it's going to go, towards the 2012 version, but I'll still definitely put up the poll there for you guys to vote. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you're new to this channel, subscribe. And if you want to see any other LEGO Star Wars comparison videos, you can check out the playlist on the end screen right now.